Higuruma has the best one-shots in the entire game, and a lot of that comes from the fact that Z did not treat his one-shots like one-shots, but rather like normal base moves, which, while it is a unique approach that I don't think has been done in the game before, kind of screws over the balance. The thought process, if I had to guess, was give Higuruma moves that are similar to base movesets, rather than awakenings, making them harder to land, but balance it out by Higuruma getting to one-shot you off of anything. Problem is that there's still one-shots at the end of the day, and none of Higuruma's moves, while not being as brain-dead as something like Lab Blue Maximum, are particularly difficult to land either, which makes Higuruma broken as hell, as a lot of the community agrees on. This video is going to go over every one-shot in the game, compare them with Higuruma's, and explain why Higuruma is specifically busted. Before we discuss one-shots though, let's just stress something about Higuruma's awakening. Higuruma's domain is nowhere near being a Hikari situation where you actually have to work for your awakening, and it's not a factor in considering how busted his one-shots are, because it doesn't limit them at all. If you want 3 bars of meter, you're going to get 3 bars of meter. The only conditional you have to earn is if you're trying to go for only 1 bar or 2 bars, because if someone just spam picks Confession, you're forced into a 3-bar awakening. But that doesn't change the point I'm trying to make, because either way, your one-shot mode is guaranteed. Never seen a Higuruma lose domain. Statistically, it's not going to happen, so it's not a factor in can this character one-shot you, in the same way that Hikari's domain is an actual factor as to whether he gets his busted-ass jackpot or not. Putting that aside, let's compare one-shots. Pretty much any domain expansion is what we'll start with. Hikari and Higuruma's domains don't exist, stop typing in the comments, and Gojo, Sukuna, and Mahito all basically one-shot you if they land domain. The conditionals to do this are fairly standard across all 3, though Sukuna uniquely isn't able to uppercut, so he's a bit of an exception. Land either an uppercut or some kind of move with an extended ragdoll, and then use the move near them. For Gojo, he has Reversal Red's R variant, Sukuna has Fire Arrow, and Mahito has Force Grab, and then throw against a wall. Gojo uniquely needs to have Lab Swoop Maximum and Hollow Purple off cooldown to pull off an actual 100-0, though if these moves are landed beforehand, that's also fine, since the opponent will be at low enough health to die. It's just something to take note of, because then it's technically not a one-shot. Getting this out of the way as well, across almost every one-shot, there's a common theme of get rid of Ragdoll Cancel. Fairly easy for them to land their one-shot, but there's still a lot of counterplay, because as long as you don't pop Ragdoll Cancel, they can't one-shot, and they don't have multiple ways to one-shot you where you're forced to use a Ragdoll Cancel to avoid one of them, while they still have a second option to use now that you've baited it. Oh, Mahito does have Idle Transfiguration as well, but it's not really that busted. It too kind of requires you to bait Ragdoll Cancel, even if it can land completely raw at times, since there's a lot of easy counterplay for the move if you throw it out of nowhere. So, if anything, that's more of an example of how out there Higuruma's one-shots are. Also, yes, I'll address Head Splitter, but that's not equivalent to the BS Higuruma has either. Roughly 1 chance to use it, only type of one-shot in his kit, if you're not counting the fact that his whole moveset can take you from 100 to 0 pretty quickly, even if there's no true combo. It's a counter so it can be baited and requires you to read your opponent, rather than guarantee it through something like a combo, which Higuruma has many of, and you need to access it through your super mode, which is by no means a guarantee. There's a lot of limitations on even getting to use Head Splitter. The other one-shot that exists is one that I doubt any of you expected me to talk about, if you know about it at all. Megumi has a one-shot combo in Awakening off of Great Serpent. Same deal as everybody else, but it's a lot easier to confirm into, because you can do it off of Great Serpent, which is a guaranteed hit almost every single time. And you also need to have a lot of your moves off cooldown. Megumi's one-shot is really good, but it also has that same Ragdoll Cancel limitation, and again, he only has this, no secondary one-shot like what Higuruma does. Toto has no one-shots, so he can kinda be ignored, but I'll talk Brothers a little bit since it's close enough, I guess. This thing is a fairly obvious counter that you only get 1 chance at most of the time, 2 if you use it at the start, but that's not going to happen that often since people will be on guard for it. Same property here applies to this that a lot of other one-shots have. Your chances to pull it off are heavily limited, and it's a standout move in your whole moveset. Though, after some damage nerfs, I think it's really not that standout, considering that Climax Jumping does just about as much damage as it, though I'm getting off track here. Kogai has Directed Poison, and I'm guessing I don't need to explain this one that in depth, but the limitation here is really obvious. You do need to bait Ragdoll Cancel first off, though that's very easy considering Kogai excels at baiting Ragdoll Cancel with his whole R special thing, and you only get 1 shot at it as well, plus the fact that it replaces your entire Awakening, so you don't really have anything else to work with, and it is the only one-shot in your tool set, unlike Higuruma, who has 4 in total. Still a very strong move, but nowhere near what Higuruma has. Finally, Choso has Point Blank Plasma Wave, which is actually not terrible after the update. It's the same conditional as everything else. Uppercut into it when the opponent has no ragdoll cancel, and you might be able to land a one-shot if your opponent doesn't dash out at the last second, though it's a bit harder to land than any of the other domain expansions, because Choso has no moves to confirm into it, only an uppercut. Plus, he doesn't have any good ways to force ragdoll cancel, nor does he have any combo starters in Awakening that would help him land uppercut either. His Awakening in general is one of the weaker ones, but that topic has been discussed to death already, so who cares? And Choso's another example of how one-shots in the game tend to be limited. Needs setup, only gets about one shot at pulling it off, and there's a lot of ways to avoid being one-shot, usually boiling down to don't waste ragdoll cancel. And with that, those are all the one-shots in the game. You'll see that there's a common thread in that- wait, what do you mean I missed one? No, I didn't. That's all the one-shots. Seriously, there is no other- okay, forget it, fine. Yuki's Black Hole is technically a one-shot, but I probably don't need to talk about it for some obvious reasons, because it's kind of a victim of the Z making something horribly underpowered out of fear that it's too overpowered syndrome. Actually, it's kind of funny that we got a one-shot that is completely useless and only exists for trolling, right before a mode that has one-shots all over the place that are all very much usable in a way that upsets the community. It's like a 0 to 100 type moment. But Yuki's Black Hole is useless. You kill yourself, you have 0 range, can't be comboed into no matter what. The only way to combo someone into it requires you to have a teammate to hold someone down so that they can't run, and even then that's a net loss for you since you're still killing your teammate and yourself while only killing one enemy. The startup is so atrociously long that I could grab coffee from downstairs, go back up to my computer, and then M1 someone to interrupt it, and it has no iframes for a reason that I actually don't understand, but I think is because if it had iframes, then it couldn't be interrupted, and a lot more Yukis would, you know, actually be dying for nothing. So, with no iframes, it's better, since at least people can save them from death. Like, I don't know how the move got made. It's really that bad. Anyways, enough of the yap fest on other one-shots, let's talk Higuruma. Higuruma's issue, that has most of the community up in arms, is that he can one-shot you. Pretty much for free, very reliably, with not a lot of conditionals he has to jump through, or counterplay you can do to stop it. Rather than his one-shots being treated like one-shots, like the other moves I mentioned above are, they're treated more like the average move, where it's easy to land them, and you're expected to be landing these things over and over again without that much difficulty. They aren't scarce or limited like the average one-shot either, where pretty much everybody else just has one tool in their kit that leads towards a one-shot, because Higuruma has 4 of them. Let's go over each, shall we? Final Verdict is probably the most notable one. It's a guaranteed one-shot off a run into a slash, and while there certainly is counterplay to the move, in that you can dash at the right time to dodge, or better yet climb a building if you're in a public server, the fact remains that it's an unconditional one-shot that just kills your opponent no matter what, if they mess up in neutral. No, the minigame doesn't count, you're going to win it unless your reaction speed is really slow, and the opponent's reaction speed is really good. And if that's the case, you probably aren't using Awakening anyways because your ass is getting beat. It also comes out somewhat quickly, so unlike something like Point Blank Plasma Wave, where you get a whole 20 years to react to it, if you're stuck in the animation of a move or something, like this guy who used Justice Served at a really bad time, you're gonna get hit, and you're going to die. I really don't know how you could balance this thing out, because if you make it too hard to land, then it's just the same situation as Black Hole where it's completely useless, but if you leave it just as it is, it's a very powerful one-shot you can throw, and sometimes land for a free kill that requires 0 setup or whatever. Oh, and you get 2 uses of it, and unlike Head Splitter, it's an offensive move, so there's no need to wait for the right moment. You can just pop it and see if it lands. There is also the restriction of there being a lot of end lag on it that can get punished, so yeah, that exists, but not really a big deal if you just land it in the first place, and even if you do get hit, domain amplification exists as a safeguard, so you know, not the biggest problem in the world. Then we move on to Higuruma's other 3 moves, which are a bit more conditional, but still not really. Execution is one of the easiest moves to land in the entire game. Bait out someone's dash, and if they aren't right behind your back to M1 you for an interruption, they're probably gonna get hit. Verdict is similarly stupid, in that all you have to do to land this is get an M1 combo. What that means, simply, is that you can one-shot someone, and they can't do anything about it, in the same way that you could save a ragdoll cancel against other characters. Oh, but that's not even the worst thing. In my last video, I missed that Higuruma's verdict can be used with R to make it so that the second slash one-shot, regardless of if you met the 3-hit conditional or not. This can be countered by blocking, and there is a sound cue technically, but it's pretty fast, and the fact that you get a chance to one-shot someone off a basic M1 combo without needing to take away ragdoll cancel or anything, which no other character in the entire game can do, is ridiculous. But there's more. That whole block the verdict thing doesn't matter if you just meet the 3-hit conditional normally, and that's very easy to do because triple sentence is a thing that exists. Sure, the projectiles have no stun, but they're still fairly easy to hit despite this, and while it's unlikely you'll instant kill someone with just one use of the move by landing all 3 hits, you've got a good shot at landing at least 2 hits, which means that any connection of verdict or execution will just one-shot somebody no matter what. And both, as I've said, are hilariously easy to land, one in neutral, the other off a basic M1. Getting hit even once by Higuruma is just certain death, and it doesn't have the same counterplay other characters get, where you can eat damage and save ragdoll cancel to lock out somebody's one-shot. It's just get hit and you die. The way to fix this, however, isn't that simple. One-shots are inherently difficult to balance because, they one-shot you, without caring about damage or whatever. Usually they get bounced out by being difficult to land, which is the case for every single one-shot before this, or requiring your opponent to make some kind of mistake, like wasting ragdoll cancel, again something that applies to all the one-shots before this. Higuruma, on the other hand, gets pretty regular moves that could be compared to your average base moveset, yet all his moves have the same one-shot gimmick. The only move Higuruma has that is even close to being treated like a one-shot is Final Judgment, which does have limitations with a high startup, high end lag, and ability to be comboed into and whatnot, that make the move have counterplay if you specifically wanted to shut it down. I think that's the main thing that people hate about his awakening. It's like a coked up base moveset that instant kills you for getting hit at all, rather than an awakening, if that makes any sense at all. I mean, Execution and Verdict are both moves that exist in other characters' bases if you think about it. Execution is Mass Breaker, which, by the way, is a near guaranteed move to land as long as you use it right, and Verdict is just a generic guard break outside of what it does on hit, the same as any other move like Wing Throw, Garuda Stab, Rapid Punches, the list goes on and on and on. I don't personally have any ideas on how I'd nerf Higuruma though. Like I said, one-shots are weird to balance, and while the one-shots before Higuruma are all fairly balanced, it's mostly because every character is limited to a single one-shot, and then the rest of their moveset is comprised of stuff that either helps them get the one-shot, or is there solely so you can beat your opponent to death. Higuruma's design revolves around its entire moveset working towards one-shotting somebody, with 4 different ways to one-shot, and so that's what makes it really difficult to balance. Higuruma is going to be very sensitive to any kind of balance change, where one push in either direction can send him over the edge. Not that it'd matter that much, since he's already kind of over it anyways. If you try nerfing him by making his moves harder to land, then there's a chance that his moves become useless, just like Plasma Wave used to be, and still kinda is, or actually what Black Hole is right now, where the move has no value because even if you could get a one-shot off landing it, you never will land it. Try nerfing him by making his conditionals harder to reach, and maybe that could work, but it's hard to pinpoint an exact number where he doesn't feel overpowered, but can still reach his conditional by playing right. He isn't like other characters, so you can't throw the exact same balance book at him that you would with others, like how Toto got Brothers, which used to be absurdly strong, killed off through a relatively simple damage nerf and nothing else. There isn't one issue with him, it's his whole design that makes him this way. Maybe some genius in the comments comes up with some flawless plan to fix Higuruma. Maybe I'll read that, make a video on suggestions, milk some money for my gaming addiction. Z sees that if he still watches my videos like he used to in the past. Hello Z if you're still seeing this. And Higuruma gets magically solved. I don't really see that happening though, who knows. Z knows Higuruma best, so he might have figured out a way to balance Higuruma, but it doesn't look easy. Inherently, Higuruma's in this bipolar spot where he's busted or useless because of his gimmick. So, yeah. That's all I have to say of the video. I find Higuruma to be very interesting. He's my main because I enjoy his base moveset a lot, but the Awakening is specifically interesting to me because of just how different it is from other Awakenings, and the challenge that makes for balancing him. Anyways, subscribe if you like this video, I'm Noob Eternally, blah blah blah, bye.